So today I've got my Tesla Model Y up on the 4-post lift because I'm going to have a look at the alloys on this, because the other day I hit two particularly nasty potholes and I just want to make sure I haven't damaged the wheels. And this has prompted me to make another video about tyres. So in this video I'm going to go through some more information on tyres that most people just aren't aware of, and it will help you understand the differences between the tyres when it comes to replacing yours. And this particular vehicle, being a Tesla Model Y, is now the world's best-selling vehicle, so this video should help a lot of people. And being an electric vehicle, there's a lot of confusion when it comes to tyres for EVs, and I hope to address some of those in this video. So a lot of people think, particularly when it comes to electric vehicles, when it comes to replacing your tyres, you've got to fit the same tyres that the vehicle came with from the factory, but that's not the case. You've obviously got to fit the same size, and in this case it is 255/45 R19 on this Tesla. So the tyre must be that same size, and it's got to be the same spec, or at least the same spec when it comes to load and speed ratings, and in this case this is a 104W. So 104 is the load rating of the tyre and W is the speed rating, and you can see all that information online and get tables to tell you what all that means. So as long as it meets that as a minimum, you can fit obviously higher spec tyres. And you then fit whatever tyres you can source and meets the requirement, because different brands and different models of tyres will suit different driving styles, different climates, and some people might prefer a run flat or an all season or a winter or a summer tyre. Of course there's lots of different models of tyres for different situations, and electric tyres are no different. As long as the specification is correct and your weight rating is correct, you can fit any brand or type of tyre you like and it won't affect your warranty. Some people think electric vehicles need special tyres because EVs are heavier, but that's a bit of a myth. This particular EV, the Tesla Model Y, weighs 1,909 kilograms, and it's a large car, and actually it's lighter than most other combustion engine vehicles of the same size. These particular tyres have a foam liner in them to reduce noise, and this one is a T1 tyre, as you can see there, and that means it's a specific Tesla tyre. But when you go to buy this tyre in the aftermarket, often it won't have the foam liner, and you could buy the same brand and model of tyre and the specifications will change slightly, but I'll go into more about that in a minute. Many people make too many assumptions when it comes to recommending tyres, and obviously you have tyre manufacturers and then they have different models of tyres to suit different climates, characteristics and different vehicle types, and you can't assume that one tyre is better than another based on the brand or even the model actually. And you'll often hear things like, for example, Michelin is a good brand of tyre, or people might say, I had a Toyo tyre and it only did 16,000 miles and I changed to a Goodyear tyre and then I got 32,000 miles out of it. You cannot make assumptions like that because there's a lot more to it than the brand of tyre. Michelin do make some of the best tyres, but they also make the worst tyre I've ever seen. And an example of this is the Energy EV tyre that was fitted to the Renault Zoe with the 16-inch wheels, and this tyre was just awful. It fell apart and whole chunks would fall out of the tyre, and I made a separate video about that which I'll link at the top of the screen and also in the video description below. So that's why I'm saying don't just assume that it comes down to the manufacturer, because each manufacturer will make tyres for specific purposes, and sometimes they will make excellent tyres and sometimes they get it wrong and make just awful tyres. But there is a lot more to it, because then when you narrow it down to a particular model of tyre, then there are different variations of that, even though they're all called the same model, and you'll get some tyres which are foam lined, some tyres have stiffer sidewalls, and some have different tread patterns or even different tread depths, and they might all still have the same model. And this is very much the case when you buy brand specific tyres. So in this case this is a Hankook Ventus S1 Evo, and it is a T1 Tesla branded tyre. But if you go and buy this tyre in the aftermarket, it could well be a slightly different tyre to what is fitted at the factory, even though it will have exactly the same model number. and the tread pattern could be slightly different, the tyre tread depth could be slightly different, and there's also a version of this which doesn't have the foam lining either. And because the tread depth is often shallower on the tyres which are fitted in the factory, that is why some people say, well, my tyres only lasted 12,000 miles when it was new, so they switched to a different brand because they weren't happy with that, and then the other brand they've bought in the aftermarket then lasts twice as long. It's not necessarily due to the tyre brand, it's because the tyres from the factory have a different tread depth to the tyres they supply to the aftermarket, and that's very much the case when you're looking at brand manufacturer specific tyres. So this T1 means that it is a Tesla tyre. On this Pirelli tyre it says A0 because this is an Audi specific tyre, but you can have M for Mercedes and lots of other letters for other brands. And don't assume your local tyre shop is the best source of knowledge either. The staff in there are often young, inexperienced, and they're just going to sell you whatever tyre they've got in stock or incentivised to sell. And this is particularly the case when it comes to electric vehicles, and also when it comes to repairing punctures on tyres on electric vehicles, because there's still many tyre shops saying they can't repair tyres that have got a foam liner, which just isn't the case. So let's quickly just cover these new foamed lined tyres, because this confuses a lot of people, including people that work in tyre shops. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and particularly, as I said, when it comes to repairing punctures on these tyres. So this particular tyre is a Pirelli P0, and as you can see it's got these foam blocks glued to the inside of the tyre. They're about 2 centimetres deep, and this deadens sound, or many people think it reduces the noise, but it doesn't actually. I think it changes the pitch of the noise, and it's more about deadening sound, not necessarily reducing sound, even though that might sound the same thing. But what I found often is when you're looking at tyres, there will be a particular brand of tyre with exactly the same sizes and the model, of course, and there'll be one with foam and one without, and you can often find that the foam line tyre isn't any quieter when it comes to the decibel rating than the one without foam. So it's not all about noise reduction, it's about changing the pitch and absorbing vibration, I think. So obviously this foam does have an advantage, and that's why a lot of electric vehicles have foamed lined tyres. But when it comes to the Tesla here, with these Hankook Ventus S1 Evo, this one obviously is a Tesla specific tyre, and this does have the foam lining, and you can tell that because there is a logo here somewhere. Where is it? I can't find it at the moment. Oh, there it is, sound absorber logo there, so you can tell this has got the foam. But I was on the Hankook website looking at this particular model and size, and there is a version without the foam, and funny enough that version is rated at 69 decibels, whereas this Tesla one with the foam is 72 decibels. And the way it works, if you don't realise, is 3 decibels is actually half the noise. So a 69 decibel tyre is going to be significantly quieter than this 72 decibel tyre. And the decibel rating on tyres is based on a test where they measure the external drive-by sound. And it's not measured inside a car because, of course, every car is different and it's going to have different sound deadening properties. But of course, a tyre which is noisier on the outside is going to be heard to some extent on the inside as well. And when it comes to repairing punctures in foam lined tyres, a lot of tyre shops are still saying that it can't be done and are turning customers away or selling them a whole new tyre. But that's not the case. It's actually pretty much the same. All they've got to do is cut out a section of foam to get access to that hole, and you repair it in exactly the same way with a patch like this. So for example, if there was a puncture in the middle of that, you would cut out a section of foam, or you can even remove a whole piece, but a lot of tyres now don't have individual sections like this. It's one complete foam liner. So you just cut out a bit of foam with a knife, and then you use a normal patch like this, and then you don't put the foam back afterwards. It makes no difference to the noise. Of course, it doesn't upset the balancing either, because this foam is very light and you're adding the weight of a patch, which is probably heavier than the foam that you removed anyway. And it's as simple as that. So it's only a case of getting a knife out and just cutting a bit of foam out. So of course they can be repaired just the same as any other tyre. So now let's just cover some of the other information that you get printed on the side of your tyres. So obviously you've got your size of the tyre there, and you've got the speed and load rating, which I've already covered. There's some other information which you get, and the first thing is the date stamp here. In this case it is 3223, and it will always be a 4-digit character, and this was when the tyre was manufactured. So in this case it was the 32nd week of 2023. So the first 2 digits are the week number, and the second 2 digits are the year. And the other information which doesn't get talked about much is down here, and it is the, let's just get a torch on it here. So it is the tread wear number, traction and temperature. So in this case tread wear is 340, traction is A, and temperature is A. And if I have a look at this Pirelli tyre, because it's outside and a bit easier to see, we can see here it also says tread wear 320, traction AA, temperature A. And that tread wear number is quite an important number, and that shows us how resistant the tyre is to wear. And the higher the number, the more hard wearing that tyre is, and the longer it's going to last. So the tyre manufacturers obviously have a controlled test routine, and they do that over 6,000 miles, and this tread wear number can range anything between 60 and 620. I have a feeling actually they may have increased it up to 1,000, but anyway, number 100 is the standard reference. So a tyre rated at 420 is going to last 4.2 times longer than a tyre rated at 100. The traction number is obviously indicating the traction and your stopping distances ultimately, and this ranges from AA to A to B to C, with AA being the best and C being the worst. And then finally we've got temperature, and the range of this is simply from A to C, with A being the best, C being the worst. And this is how well the tyre can disperse heat. So an A rated tyre can handle much higher speeds than a C rated tyre. But that's a little bit irrelevant really, because your speed rating up here indicates that better. And the majority of tyres now are directional, so they will either have arrows on them telling you which way to fit them, or they'll have the wording outside written on the outside, and it will say inside there. And this is obviously pretty obvious, but as I said earlier, many tyre shops have inexperienced staff, and I found this myself. We had a 4x4 which we were towing a trailer with, so all the time we were using it, it was doing quite hard, demanding work. And I had some new tyres fitted to it, and about 3 months later I was looking at the tyres and I discovered 2 of my tyres were fitted the wrong way round. It said inside on the outside. So effectively the tyres were going backwards, which was pretty dangerous really on a vehicle that was always towing a trailer with another vehicle on the back. And that's what prompted me to stop using tyre shops, and I invested in our own tyre and balancing machines. So finally, let's just cover buying replacement tyres for your EV, and in this case I'm going to concentrate on the Tesla Model Y, because this is a bit of a hot topic at the moment when it comes to buying replacement tyres on the Tesla, because many people are going to want to buy the same tyres that the car came fitted, particularly if you've just had a puncture and you only want to buy one, you don't want to buy a matching pair, then you're going to want to buy the same tyre of course. And our vehicles with 19-inch wheels come fitted with the Hankook Ventus S1 Evo 3 tyres, but these are in short supply in the UK. The majority of tyre shops will not have these on the shelves, and they will struggle to get them in, so your car could be off the road for quite a few days. Tesla service centres do have a few of these in stock, but the prices tend to be quite high, but they might not actually be the same tyre as what was fitted from the factory. So as I've said throughout this video, there's a lot more to it than just the brand of tyre and also even the model of tyre. So let's just concentrate on this particular one, the Hankook Ventus S1 Evo 3 tyre, and in this case on the Tesla it is 255/45 R19. So there are three versions of this tyre. There's the Evo 3, there's the Evo 3 SUV, and there's the Evo 3 EV. So I've been on the Hankook website looking at this particular size of tyre, and when it comes to just the EV one in this size, there are still 4 versions of the tyre. 3 of those versions are a Tesla specific tyre, and this is one of those because it has got the T1, but only 2 of those 3 have the foam lining, and I can tell this is one because it's got that sound absorber logo somewhere around the side, which I can't currently see. Oh, there it is, just there. But if you're buying one of these, you might think you've still got the Ventus S1 Evo 3 EV T1 tyre, but it could come with foam or without foam. And in this particular tyre, looking at the website, in the Tesla specification, it has a noise rating of 72 decibels, but still keeping with the same model tyre, but not the EV version, just the Evo 3. There is another one in the same rating that is not a Tesla spec, but it's actually 68 decibels, so significantly quieter and still suitable to fit on the Tesla. But also in the same size and the same model, there is a run flat version and non-run flat versions. So as I said, it is all very confusing. So your local tyre shop is only going to tell you the brand and the model, and then obviously your size, in this case the 255/45 R19. So as well as looking at your speed and load ratings, you've also got to look at what version there is, because within this particular size, with this brand and model of tyre, there are 6 different versions. But each version will have its own unique number. And of course we've now got the internet, so my advice is, if you care about this and you want to make sure you get the right tyres, particularly if you're tyre matching, then you can find all this information out by going to the manufacturer's website, regardless of what manufacturer it is, starting with your size and your speed and load rating, and narrow it down to exactly the right tyre model number based on this long number, and make sure that you're actually getting the tyres that you think you're getting. So when it comes to changing the tyres on my Tesla Model Y here, fortunately it shouldn't be for a long time yet, because this car's only done 6,000 miles, unless of course I have a puncture that can't be repaired. But when that time comes, I won't be buying the same Hankook Ventus S1 Evo tyres. Not that I've got anything against these are actually very good tyres, but my personal preference is all season tyres, and it will probably be the Michelin or Cross Climate tyres, but there are a few other manufacturers that are making equally good tyres now. A good source of information is tyrereviews.com and their YouTube channel. There's some excellent videos there testing tyres and doing tyre tests that we just couldn't do ourselves. So it's a very good source of comparing one tyre to another. But anyway, all season tyres is my personal preference because they match the UK climate very well, and I've got other videos about those on the channel if you want to have a look at those. On other EVs as well, I've often found that an all-season tyre can be quieter than a summer tyre. There's an assumption that all-season tyres are noisy, and that's just not the case. So my priority always is to look at the decibel rating first and buy the quietest tyre I can on an electric vehicle. So I hope that video's helped, and maybe you've learned something, and I've probably opened up a right can of worms when it comes to looking for your replacement tyres. But anyway, if you found it useful, as always, please do click the thumbs up button. That really does help. Do subscribe to the channel, ask any questions in the comments below, and if you want to know more about Tesla Model Y, have a look at the playlist in the video description, and I'll see you on the next video.